Hello and welcome to episode number 26 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam.
I'm Sahil.
And this week was, this was the tightest week, I think, in league history. We had a tie. We had two matchups that probably should have tied, and no team won more than 7 out of 12 categories this week. Just an insanely well done job by everyone and a fun week overall.
Yeah, this was, I think every matchup came down to the wire, and it's, this was a lot of fun. I feel like this is just a continuation of what the first 2 weeks were like, everything coming down to the wire. And, we got a lot to talk about, but before we start talking about the matchups, we would like to dedicate this week's podcast episode to Reggie B, who recently passed away, crossed the Rainbow Bridge, a Michigan legend. He will be missed, and we are honoring him in this week's podcast.
He will be missed. Rest in peace, Reggie. Do you have any Reggie stories, Sahil?
Oh, I did get to see him once. It was summer. I was walking back. What was that place that does the bubble tea?
There, like 10 of them.
Yeah, and then I was walking back from there. I saw him, took my picture with him. So I'm glad I got to meet him once.
It was great. I met him a couple times. I was walking through the Arb. I believe it was in the fall, or maybe, I don't know. It was sometime of year. But I was walking through the Arb, and then he was walking the other direction with his owner, and it was just a great moment. I was like, wait a minute. Is that Reggie? It's like seeing a celebrity and not being 100% sure it's them. And
yeah, you can get dogs maybe mixed up from like the side or the back. So yeah, I don't blame you. But no, definitely, I'm sure a lot of people in this league have great memories of him, and he will be missed.
Yeah, we should have. Yeah, Zane. Zane's the one who has the real connection to Reggie. We should have had him on, but
speaking of Zane, not the best week for him here. Another tough luck loss. That's the first matchup we wanted to get into, and so we're recording this on Monday. Had Zane gotten a double or a run from Mookie Betts last night, he would have at least tied the matchup. Or actually, I think one double or one run would have won him the matchup at that point, and he didn't get it. But his first at bat today against Tyler Mahle, he hit a double. So that just would have happened one at bat before. EBO would have taken the W, but unfortunately for them, they are now sitting at 0-2-1.
That is rough. Speaking of Tyler Mahle, it's as we record the second inning, and the Reds are not yet losing to the Dodgers, so that's a positive. But yeah, 0-2-1 for EBO. I do want to congratulate them for setting the single week saves record. With 12, breaking the old record of 10, which used to belong to you back, I believe you said it in 2019. Now EBO, and that's 3 single week records in the first 2 weeks of the season, which is exciting. I was expecting a lot of the batting records to fall since we have an extra util slot, but I guess league-wide hitting has been weighed down.
I think I read today the OBP so far in the league is 310 and like a 233 batting average. That needs to change.
That is not good. I mean, it is April, but still.
It is, but like also that's really bad. And the OBPs league wide really reflected that this week. I think 2 teams finished with OBPs at 350 or above, and that was you and me. I had a 520 OBP yesterday to kind of get back up there. But I mean, just looking at this matchup, EBO, a 291 OBP is just not going to cut it. I mean, 11 homers, 39 RBIs, definitely like solid. The 8 stolen bases are really good. But that's the difference there. Their hitting needs to, be better than this if they're going to consistently win matchups against better teams, especially a team like Ruthvik, who has a solid offense. He definitely has some pieces, but like the EBO offense is clearly better. And, they can't only be winning, 3 categories and tying another. and expect to, consistently win those types of matchups. That being said, though, I thought this was a fantastic week for their pitching strategy. I mean, 12 saves, 3 holds. That's exactly what they need with a low ERA and WHIP.
They got saves from 7 different pitchers.
That's nuts. And they definitely left some saves on the bench. Like Matt Barnes had a save on the bench yesterday. So that number could have been even higher. But that also kind of brings me to my last point about them is some of the decisions they made of who to bench and who not to bench really came back to hurt them. They benched Matt Barnes and started Matt Whistler and Tyler Rogers instead, and both of them struggled yesterday. And that was a difference in WHIP. Now, I think most weeks it's not going to be an issue because I think that they, in theory, should have a bigger lead in ERA and WHIP most weeks than they've had the first 3 weeks. Like they've just had insane matchups, but they need to make sure they're starting the right people each week. That's key.
Yeah, I will say I don't believe they've won a pitching rate stat in any of the 3 weeks, and they've had good stats each week. I mean, just this week, a WHIP of exactly 1, ERA of 2.625. That would beat most teams, but they've run into some buzzsaws. Erik had a great pitching week 1. Conor, of course, had the record-breaking week last week. And Ruthvik's team, 2.08, 2.09 ERA, and a 0.885 WHIP. That's really, really good. Once again, just another team having an incredible pitching week at EBO's expense. And this just came down to Jacob deGrom, of course, the 15 strikeouts, 2-hitter that he had. Just one of the best pitching performances I've ever seen. Marco Gonzalez made a great start as well. Rafael Montero to the bullpen was good. Dylan Floro was good. Tyler Mahle made a great start. Matt Boyd. I mean, just all of Ruthvik's starters are looking really good once again this year. Even Matt Boyd, even the ones that were like, okay, they'll all be good except for this guy. He's been probably their second best. So that team is looking really good. They're 3-0, one of only 3 teams currently to not have a loss. And yeah, things are good there. EBO's had some bad luck, but there are some concerns as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they've had a very tough schedule. Facing Erik and Ruthvik and a Conor team that is improving. So I'm not totally worried about them. I think that things are going to come together, and they are a little bit unlucky right now. But like, I'd definitely be concerned, especially when you consider like there are multiple teams who we expect to make the playoffs who have 2.5 game leads over them now. And not only that, but I mean, this hole can dig even deeper. I mean, they're playing you this week.
Mm-hmm.
They could easily start 0-3-1. I mean, I said this at the beginning of the season when we're doing a week 1 previews. Like, whoever got off to the rough start between EBO and Erik in that week 1 matchup could really have some trouble winning. And I mean, they ended up tying, but EBO's got to pick it up soon, or they could be maybe on the outside looking in, which I don't think anybody expected at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely not. I mean, they had a rough start to the Roto regular season last year, and they were able to turn it around in much less time than they currently have. But they've got to kick it into gear real soon.
No, absolutely. Do we want to go into the next matchup here, or was there anything else you wanted to add about either of the teams?
No, let's move on. Let's go into my matchup next. Oh God, this was a rough one. It started out, I was down 9-3 or 10-2 on Tuesday. It was looking dire for me, and all of my players were getting injured. My entire team got hurt this week. I lost Moustakas, I lost Segura, I lost Soto, I lost Peterson, I lost Ryu got hurt in his final game, which could have flipped the week for me. I can't even count the rest of the guys I lost. But I did manage to mount a comeback. I led most of the day Saturday. I led a decent chunk of the day Sunday. But ultimately at the end, it was Victor Gonzalez came in late in the game, gave up a couple base runners, flipped WHIP back in the favor of Erik, and he ended up taking it 7-5. Wait a minute, he started 13 starting pitchers.
Did he?
Yeah.
Ooh, well, I guess technically the ESPN rule is it's if you hit that limit, it's the day after you can't start anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, ESPN's rules on that are a little funky. That's a loophole, I guess, that some people take advantage of. But yeah,
I think the penalty should be that Whip flips back to me.
Yeah, that'd be pretty nice for you.
Yeah, it'd still be a tie, and I think we deserve to tie. But he's 1-1-1 now, and I think the fact that I played this close with a good team, despite all of the things going wrong, is a great sign for my team.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, obviously a rough week for you and the offensive department and the homers and RBIs. I mean, 9 and 29 is not going to cut it, but still finished second in OBP behind me. That was impressive, 350. And your pitching held its own for the most part. I mean, 4 quality starts, 3 saves, 4 holds, all pretty solid. The ERA could have been better, but like a 122 whip is not bad. Kind of a tough luck loss for you. Just kind of the injuries. You kind of ran into a team that was, performing very well. And I mean, I'm not too worried for your team. I think speaking on Erik's team here for a second, he really needed this like badly. And I don't think he's been playing particularly bad. I mean, I don't think his team has been amazing, but I don't think they've been bad either. And I think it's, we've kind of been waiting for him to turn the corner a little bit. His ERA was a little higher than I would have liked to have seen. But overall, I thought that this was a really good week for him and kind of rebounding from the first 2 weeks. And one thing I'll note is on last week's episode, I mentioned that like Erik wasn't really getting a lot of saves or holds. And, Erik teams traditionally get a lot of holds and he needed to get back to that. And then he ended up posting 5 holds this week to tie for the league lead this week with me. So
you can thank Devin Williams for that. He had 3 this week alone.
Oh man, and he's been struggling too. So I mean, if he's back on track, I mean, watch out. Like, I mean, he still has a 5.87 ERA, but that could really help Erik. And I know TJ Anton's been pretty good as well.
He has.
But Erik, unlike EVO, kind of gets the benefit of a better matchup here. They play Erik plays Andrew this week. So Erik could go up to 2-1-1 and, kind of considering how he started the season, I think he'd be pretty happy with that record after 4 weeks. So, maybe things are starting to look up a bit for Erik.
Yeah, I think they could be. He's currently in 4th in the Burke division right now. The OBP was low, but everyone's is low. Erik is, I believe, we talk about the big rotations being yours, mine, and Ruthvik's, but I believe Erik has had the most strikeouts of any team each of the first 3 weeks. I know he did this week, and I know he did last week.
Let's look that up, because one thing that's interesting too, and I've started to look at this, is when you look at kind of I know we're not doing Roto, but when you look at like what the Roto standings would be, I'm starting to feel like those numbers are starting to solidify a little bit, and you're not kind of random. So, looking at the strikeout numbers, Erik is 3rd. I have 298, Ruthvik is 292, and Erik is 284. So he is 3rd in the league.
Okay. He must have had a rough first week in strikeouts then, but still, it's the top 3 are tight in that category.
Oh no, they really are. It's kind of how it was last season. There was kind of like a top 3 that were all pretty close there in strikeouts, and I expect it to be pretty similar this year. Yeah,
absolutely. He stole 9 bases this week too. 3 for Whit Merrifield, who only had a 214 on base this week.
Oh man.
2 for Dylan Moore, despite Dylan Moore only having 1 hit this week. So that's kind of fun.
It's funny because like Erik was like, oh, like Dylan Moore, he's not going to steal as many stolen bases as Alberto Mondesi, but he'll contribute in other categories. And so far, it's just like it's like more, despite the stolen bases, has probably been more of a detriment to his team than anything. And I get it. There's still some time. He could turn it around, but like, man, not a good start for Dylan Moore. And speaking of other hitters of his we've been talking about, Leody Taveras finally got demoted. He's also been pretty bad. So looks like Erik might need to start looking for some other options out there in the outfield.
That's true. I've heard AJ Pollock. We can get him to move again. I, in the middle of the week, in the midst of all my injuries, traded for AJ Pollock from you.
Yep.
He got into my lineup on the final day. Went 1-for-1 as a pinch hitter. Because I guess he, after all that hoopla about the trade, didn't even start on Sunday.
No, I do think if he performs like he did last year, this could be a steal for you, because he had like 16 homers in 60 games last year.
Yeah, I'm high on him. All I gave up was a very late third and a conditional very late third.
Yeah, I shopped him around the league. I thought that there would be a bit more interest. You already only want to make an offer. I like AJ Pollock. I think that he could bounce back. I was concerned that maybe with Lux coming off the IL and Bellinger coming off soon, maybe his playing time decreases. But I mean, I think overall you got a really good bat for not an expensive price. And if he doesn't pan out, you could just cut him. And I mean, if I had the roster space to keep him, I would have. But my team's getting healthy, unlike yours. So I didn't have the space for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly an improvement over Gregory Polanco, who's in my lineup. Although Polanco went 3-for-4 with a homer after I cut him yesterday. He would not have flipped any categories, thankfully. But
just going based on your bench earlier in the week too, you gotta trust your Pirates.
Oh, hey, I mean, I've learned to trust Adam Frazier. He's been like an amazing player.
Oh, he's been great.
All right, I think we've talked enough about me. Which matchup do you want to dive into next?
Oh, how about the tie?
Okay.
Yeah, Clayton and Jake and Daniel and Alex. I picked Daniel and Alex to win this matchup, and unfortunately they couldn't do that. They came a couple homers short, actually, of pulling off a W, but pretty impressive tie. The pitching was very good. 6 quality starts, 4 holds, 2.47 ERA, a 104 whip. And I mean, yesterday their pitching just went ham. 35 innings their pitching staff pitched yesterday. That was 5 starts and a couple relief appearances. With 4 quality starts, only 6 earned runs given up, 39 Ks, a 154 ERA, and a 0.83 whip. So the pitching was really good. The problem for them was the hitting just wasn't really there. None of the hitting categories that they had, they were particularly impressive in. I mean, 5 stolen bases was nice, but kind of mediocre across the board otherwise. So 0-2-1 now. Maybe they can use this to get some momentum. But, if you're Clayton and Jake and, you want to be a playoff team, these are the matchups you need to win.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be tying matchups like this, when there's a lot of categories that are easily very winnable. They could have streamed a bit and won strikeouts. They were only down 11 in strikeouts, and they know they weren't going to win ERA and whip, and maybe they could have gotten another quality start that way. So just kind of a tough luck tie for them. Hopefully they could bounce back next week, but definitely a winnable matchup that I feel like slipped through their fingers.
Yeah, I agree. They got to be feeling a little bummed after this week, especially, they could have easily flipped 1 or 2 pitching categories. And you on like Wednesday said, oh, this matchup is probably going to tie.
Yep.
It's looking like you called that way early and you got it right. And we had opposite ends of which team we thought would win this matchup. But in the end, it goes in the same for both of us in the standings as a tie. Yeah, good job to the Fighting Bellies for getting on the board. They're not 0-3. They avoid that. They're tied with EBO. Hey.
Here's one question before we transition over to our next matchup. Are you concerned about Clayton and Jake's pitching staff? Because, Lynn is on the IL, Strasburg is on the IL, Luis Castillo, he's been bad. I mean, Montas has been bad. Greinke has been good as always, and Bundy has been, for the most part, pretty decent. But that's a good chunk of their rotation. It's a little bit kind of iffy. Do you have any concerns, or do you think that this team's going to kind of right this ship here?
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm concerned. They look, I mean, we talked about it in the offseason. This pitching staff looks a lot worse without Strasburg or Clevenger or the guys who were hurt. And Greinke's got the low ERA, but he is not striking anyone out this year. 22 and 32 and 2/3 innings is not great. Weirdly, one of their better pitchers has been Anthony DeSclafani this year. Did they? They picked him up. You cut him on April 12th. They scooped him right up, and he's been great for them. Andrew Heaney made a good start this week. 10 strikeouts, 1 run in 6 1/3. But I don't really have any confidence in any of these guys except, Greinke, I guess. Maybe Zach Eflin, maybe Andrew Heaney, maybe Luis Castillo. But it looks like a very ragtag staff.
Yeah, I think I'm a little more optimistic about the staff just because I think Lynn will come back and be fine. I think Castillo bounces back eventually. I'm a little biased on Greinke, but I'm higher on him than you are. So I don't think this pitching staff is totally in ruins, but I definitely, for the kind of the big names that they have and kind of the attention they put on this pitching staff in the offseason, they're not doing as hot. The offense to me needs some work as well. Rhys Hoskins has been really good, but they traded him away to get Strasburg. He looked really nice in this lineup right now. But again, having 3 shortstops and 3 DH only players really kind of limits this lineup's potential a bit. Because of that, having to start names consistently Brian Anderson or Colton Wong or Enrique Hernandez, Avisal Garcia, who are solid players, but you'd rather be able to fit Javi Baez or Jorge Soler in your lineup more often. So maybe not Jorge Soler. His numbers are worse than I thought they were this year at 210 average, but it means they're not using their lineup spots sufficiently. So I think of all the teams in the league right now, I think their team is really in need of a trade or two to kind of make things more efficient and streamlined on their roster. And I think I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now, but I think it's even more pressing now with the way they've started.
Yeah, I'll point out that Nick Senzel is slugging 278.
Ugh. Yeah, has that trade really worked out for anybody? It doesn't seem like it.
Hey, Nico Horner's 5 for 9.
Is he
getting called back up? Yeah.
There you go. You want to get into the next matchup?
Yeah, let's talk about. So there are 3 matchups left. Let's dive into the matchup that we tagged as the matchup to watch last week. That was Conor versus Andrew. Conor, after posting the best ERA of all time and the best whip of all time, he immediately had Lucas Giolito come in and give up 9 runs on Monday.
Yeah, that really set the tone for the week. He finished with a 5.43 ERA because of that. Or because of that and some other mediocre pitching performances. But he did enough to hold on because of the hitting. His offense was really good. One of the league, close to the league lead in RBIs, 12 homers, a solid 7 stolen bases. The OBP at 322, kind of given some of the other OBPs, was actually above average. The pitching just wasn't there. And again, this is the type of matchup where if he's playing a better team, I don't think the pitching numbers are going to cut it. But because, he was playing Andrew, whose, offense is shaky and his pitching staff can be a little bit unpredictable, he's able to eke out a W here. So And again, this might just be a blip on the radar because I've been pretty impressed with some of the pieces that Conor's brought in overall for his rotation. But, I think what this week proved, despite the win, is that he's still a little bit off from some of the better teams in this league. And there's still some work that needs to be done.
Yeah, that's true. I think the pitching weirdness is more of a blip than anything. But on the other hand, you can't expect Carlos Rodon to throw a no-hitter every week. This week he made one start and he walked 5 for 1.60 whip. Jordan Hicks was bad. Mike Pineda was bad. Giolito, of course, it was 7 earned runs in just 1 inning. And then he did not make his scheduled second start.
Yeah, he like cut his finger. So there's something weird. Like a freak injury. But I think that might work out for him because he'll get a 2-start week from him this week, and he didn't end up needing him on Sunday. But I'm going to talk about Andrew quickly too. I mean, I think he is 0-3, but I think his team has exceeded expectations the first 3 weeks. And I look at his pitching staff, and the numbers weren't all that bad this week. I mean, 4 quality starts, 5 saves, 3 holds is a pretty healthy group there of stats. And the ERA was under 4. The whip 1.3 was a bit high, but he was still able to win that category. But it came down to the offense. And I think him more than any other team this year has really had issues with the OBP. I mean, a 312 might actually be one of the higher OBPs that he's posted in a week all season. So again, I don't think Andrew's team has that high of a ceiling this year. I think that he's proved that he's going to be pretty competitive in some of these matchups, and he's not just like a complete pushover or anything. But there's a reason this team's 0-3. But kudos to what he's done so far.
Yeah, that's true. He did get a great week from Brian Reynolds, who is a guy he picked up right shortly after the season started, or maybe shortly before. But good for him. He's doing what he needs to in terms of finding waiver wire guys, at least the one. Victor Robles has been awful this year. I don't think it's time to cut him or anything, but I think if you were a team besides Andrew, you may be thinking of cutting bait on Robles right now.
Yeah, I mean, one of the I guess the big things with Robles is even with like kind of the lower OBPs, like he's able to produce kind of a bit in the homer and stolen base categories enough to make him kind of a decent asset, but he's only got 1 stolen base on the year, no homers. So
his sprint speed this year is slower than Vlad Jr.
Huh.
Vlad is solidly like 45th percentile, and Robles is a tiny bit lower. So he hasn't even looked fast. Maybe, I don't know if he came to camp out of shape or what, but.
Well, I'm just reading here in 62 Grapefruit League plate appearances, he had 5 steals and 6 attempts. So I don't know if that has to do anything about his sprint speed, but
maybe he's got a nagging injury or something that he's not telling the media.
He did have some back tightness in late March, and I wonder if that's still affecting him, because that's the type of thing that's going to affect your speed.
Yeah,
man, just kind of we'll see if they can bounce back next week or this week. I know Andrew's playing Erik, so that might be a bit of a tougher matchup. And Conor has Ruthvik and Nick, which is an equally tough matchup. So let's see if Conor can pull off a W over Ruthvik. Anything else, or do you want to talk about the next matchup?
I'm ready to move on. Which one do you think we should talk about next?
Oh man. This Anthony Yuki matchup was interesting to me for a lot of reasons and just kind of statistically. So I kind of want to dive into this. Anthony had a 269 OBP this past week, which I think was the second lowest behind Alex's 268. But he led the league in homers and was tied for the league in RBI. So it's just like when he got hits or got guys on base, they just drove in batters. It's just one of those crazy weeks. The OBP needs to come up, but like the rest of the offensive categories were really good this week. What separated him from Yuki here was the pitching. Anthony's pitching was low-key very solid and finished with a 2.90 ERA, a 1.19 whip. whereas Yuki had an ERA of 4.85 and a WHIP of 140, despite having one more quality start and winning Holt. So Anthony was able to take the win here. And quietly, Anthony is 3-0. I feel like we haven't talked about him a lot, but he's one of the 3 undefeated teams left.
Yeah, he is undefeated. He's kind of gotten the easy schedule so far. He faced Daniel and Alex. He faced Alex and Zach, and he's faced Yuki now. But he is undefeated. It does take a good amount of effort to not drop a game. And yeah, he had a lot of guys low OBP and a lot of power last week. Xander Bogaerts hit 3 home runs, drove in 8 runs, but only a 320 OBP. Kyle Seager had 7 RBIs and a 222 OBP. Franchi Cordero 1 for 12, but he even drove in a run. So he's just kind of having an interesting season in general. And his bats are just kind of weird. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and even with the pitching staff too, like you would think, okay, Soroka's out and Puck's out and Paxton's out. Like this pitching staff's going to struggle. And I mean, I've talked about this many times on the podcast that I think he needs to get a more reliable pitcher or 2 in there. But he's found a way to piece it together. Trevor Rogers has looked fantastic to start the season. He had 7 shutout innings last week. Charlie Morton had a nice start. Carlos Martinez had a quality start. Christian Javier didn't give up a run in 5 innings. JT Brubaker, 7 innings, 2 earned. So he's not doing it with fancy names, but he's piecing it together. So hey, we'll see. This could be an interesting team down the stretch, and maybe he ends up sneaking into the playoffs over a team like Clayton and Jake, who he now has a game and a half up on, and who he's playing this week. And that's going to be a really interesting matchup. He's got the early lead there. But, that could really help put some distance between him and some of the bottom teams in that division.
Yeah, absolutely. That's certainly one of the matchups to watch this week. If he can move to 4-0, and if Clayton and Jake can bounce back from a definitely disappointing week.
No, absolutely. Hopefully for their sake they can. As for Yuki's team, I'll talk about him quickly. They did better offensively. Like his homer and RBI numbers would have beat most teams this week, and the 332 OBP was great. But the pitching staff needs to get it together. And it's funny because like today his pitching staff was looking really good. Adam Wainwright pitched a complete game, only gave up 2 earned. He got a couple holds from Greg Holland and Scott Barlow in the Royals game. And then Austin Gomber gave up 9 earned in an inning in 2/3. So, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But if he can get the pitching under control, the way the offense has been going recently, he could, maybe eke out a couple wins. But I'm not seeing Yuki as a serious contender until he fixes that pitching staff.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say, the offense has been a tiny bit better than maybe I was expecting, but this team has looked like one of the worst teams in the league, and he's gonna definitely need to fix that pitching staff.
You want to guess how many catchers he has in his lineup today?
4.
Close. He's got 3, but he's got 4 on his roster.
God.
Yeah, he's got JT Realmuto, Buster Posey, Yadi Molina, and Austin Nola.
Man, he's developed that reputation for a reason.
Well, he loves his catchers. I mean, Yadi's hitting 339, and Posey has 2 hits today, including a double and an RBI, a couple runs. So maybe
that's funny because he did not own Yadier Molina at the start of the season. He was a free agent when the season began. He's adding catchers.
Oh yeah. Even Posey, he added Posey after the season started. And I get it, like Austin Nola hit the IL, maybe that's contributing to it, but
yeah, oh man. Yeah. It's funny to look at.
Definitely. You want to get into the last matchup here?
Yeah, this one is your matchup. You beat Alex and Zach in one that was, I guess, not as close as it looked, but it was still 7-4 to 1. I believe it was tied maybe at one point in the middle of the week. Why don't you talk about what your team did?
Yeah, actually, I thought I was going to win 9 categories, and then they ended up posting a save, and Bumgarner got the unofficial no hitter yesterday. So that kind of stole strikeouts back for them, and the tying saves, and they like went ham and stolen bases yesterday and the day before. But their offense just really struggled minus stolen bases. I mean, a 268 OBP was the worst in the league last week, and it works if they did what Anthony's team did and hit like 18 homers and like had 46 RBIs, but they had 9 homers and 31 RBIs, so that's not really going to cut it. The 5 quality starts was really solid. This pitching staff, low key, is like really solid between guys like Scherzer, Julio Urias has looked really good. Robbie Ray's actually pitched pretty well so far this year. Bumgarner's looked better the past couple starts, although I still don't fully trust him. Casey Mize has had his moments as well. But they need to do more offensively to be able to kind of compete in these matchups. Just kind of the same thing with Yuki, but just the opposite. They need more hitting, but the pitching is there versus Yuki has the hitting, but not the pitching. For my team, I'm getting healthier, which is nice, although that didn't really show up last week. Altuve came back today. George Springer is supposed to come back tomorrow. They're talking about Yelich and Fried maybe being back over the next 7 to 10 days, which would be really good. Fernando Tatis, I mean, boy, 5 homers, like 2 against Kershaw, 2 against Bauer, 1 against Dustin May. He had 4 stolen bases this week. He is calming a lot of the concerns that people had, and I saw a stat today let's see if I can find the exact numbers here. So we're talking over a player's first 162 games. Tatis is the only player in history with at least 40 homers, 100 RBIs, and 20 stolen bases. And he's only done this in 158 games. He has 46 home runs, 31 stolen bases, 107 RBIs, and a 156 adjusted OPS. That's insane. He's only 22, so he's bound to get better. He's proving that he can hit despite the shoulder injury, which was a big concern. And if he could keep this up, I mean, I think my offense is going to be in pretty good shape. Pitching wise, it was nice to see Patrick Corbin do well on Monday, but he was disastrous on Sunday again. And I don't know what's wrong with him at this point. I don't know what to say. He needs to be more consistent, or he might be working his way off my team. But despite the high ERA, I think it was kind of skewed a bit by Corbin. By me, for some reason, deciding Kohei Arihara would be a good start yesterday, and a couple of relievers blowing up. So I feel pretty good about the pitching staff, but not great. I did lead the league in quality starts and holds, so I will take that. But I feel like I could be doing a bit better. I told you and Erik this last week. Our last full season in 2019, in my wins, I won 19 of 22 regular season games and then went 1-1 in the playoffs. So of those 20 wins that I had, I never once won less than 8 categories in those wins. And this year, I have done that in 2 of the 3 matchups. So hopefully getting healthier makes my team a little better, but it's been a little rough to start out, but I'll take still being 3-0 despite that.
Yeah, it's been a tight matchup for every team every week. No one's been able to just kind of rest on their laurels after Wednesday. Everyone's had to work for it, and you've had to work for all 3 of your wins more than you have in a while.
Yeah, I don't I don't like that. I like just kind of dominating teams and not really needing to think about it. It's a good thing for the league when we're not just having a couple teams running away with it. You know, I like the parity.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, of there are three undefeated teams, but only one of them is one of the traditional powers.
Yeah, you love to see it. Hopefully some of these other teams can keep, doing well, and the playoffs look a bit different than they've looked the first 3 years. Although I still need to win the league. I don't want to ship this trophy to somebody else, but maybe the other spots can be filled by other people.
We shall see.
Yeah.
And yeah, we ready to move on to this coming week?
Yeah. So, do you want to go into our matchup of the week since you are involved in the matchup of the week?
I am. Yes, the matchup we decided was the biggest one was myself versus EBO. This is my team coming off a disappointing loss, but still looking like probably the second best team in the league. The injuries, hopefully a few people are coming back. I think Moustakis should be back soon. Not sure about some of the other guys. And then EBO, a disappointing 0-2-1. They're looking to get their first win. It's a tough matchup for them to try and get it. Currently, as we speak, late Monday, I am up 5-3-4. My OBP has not been good, but I will. I guess we've currently neither of us have qualified in ERA and WHIP, but we will split those categories currently based on the way it's sitting. These are two teams that were in the playoffs last year in the semis, very nearly squared off in the finals. Not exactly rivals, particularly, but I think both of these teams really need this win.
Oh yeah, no mistaking that. I mean, you don't want to go to 2-2, and they don't want to go to 0-3-1. If they're 0-3-1, I mean, that's gonna be a tough climb back up. And for you, I mean, with the expectations that you have, losing back-to-back weeks to Erik and EBO is not acceptable for reaching those goals.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get into our picks or anything else with the matchup you want to talk about?
No, that's all I have to talk about. Best of luck. And yeah, how did we both do last week in picks?
Yeah, so you and I both correctly predicted that me, Anthony, and Conor would win. We both incorrectly picked you to win. You picked EBO and Ruthvik to tie, which nearly happened again. That's nuts. You have almost predicted ties like twice now involving Ruthvik and Nick, and it's come down to the wire. But and I predicted EBO to win, so I guess that counts as a tie for you in the standings, that you predicted them to tie and they didn't tie.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the loss there because I picked EBO, and then you picked Clayton and Jake. I picked Daniel and Alex. How are we counting that in the standings? Is that a tie?
That's a tie for both of us.
Okay, so in which case I finished 3-2-1 on the week, and you finished what looks like 3-1-2.
Okay, gaining ground.
I think. Let's see if I calculated this right. Yeah, I did calculate that right. So me 3-2-1, you 3-1-2. That means I am 12-4-2 on the season, and you are 10-3-5. So I'll give my picks for this week. I put together my picks after we figured out we weren't going to record last night before the matchup started, so as not to let this bias me. I think I will beat Yuki. I think that Anthony will beat Clayton and Jake. I think that Daniel and Alex will beat Alex and Zach. I think that Ruthvik and Nick will beat Conor and Conor. I think that Erik will beat Andrew. And your matchup versus EBO is the toughest one to pick. I picked EBO last week, and they didn't win. Your team's banged up, but you've been able to pull it out. They would have beaten you last week if you all played. So I'm going to say that EBO is going to pull this one off this week finally. but I think it's going to be a close one.
It's a tough week to pick. I will say that for my matchup, I am so banged up, but I'm not going to pick against my team. I'm going to pick myself to win. I think that Anthony and Clayton and Jake will be my tie of the week. They're the teams I think will tie. Anthony will remain undefeated. Clayton and Jake will go to 1-1-2. I think the Fighting Bellies will beat the Chicken Tendies. I think you will beat Yuki. I think Ruthvik and Nick will beat Conor. And I think Erik will beat Andrew.
All right, so we have two different picks this week. You're picking an Anthony and Clayton and Jake tie. Well, I just picked Anthony to win outright, and you picked yourself to win, and I picked EBO to win. So we'll see who ends up being right. But definitely going to be another exciting week. And if it's anything like the last 3 weeks, they're all going to come down to Sunday, and we are all going to be very stressed out. In addition to all being stressed out about the hockey and the basketball playoffs, which are underway in the other leagues. And I know that I have a bye in basketball this week, but we are very stressed about playing Alex this week in hockey. He looks really good. Congratulations to you on finishing your hockey season and your basketball season. But
yeah, no congratulations are in order for hockey. It was a total. I mean, my skaters were really good the entire year. The goalies just fell off a cliff at the end, and there's nothing else to say.
Yeah, tough one for you, but hey, looks like the league is in solid shape, and you can come back next year and hopefully do a bit better. Oh no, I would not mind if you lose in the first round of the playoffs again. That's perfectly acceptable to me.
Yeah, hey, I mean, making the playoffs isn't the worst thing I could be doing. But yeah, if that's all we have to say about this week, thanks for listening. Best of luck to everyone this week. And once again, rest in peace to our beloved Campus Corgi, Reggie.
Yeah, rest in peace, and best of luck to everybody this week.
It's so dark, ain't about to forget all we've had and all that's next. Long as my heart beating in my chest, it's so dark.